Well, hi everyone. Vachu here from Recording Studio 9, and thanks for joining me again today. And today I have with me a special guest all the way from UK, Jonny Lipsham from Jonny Lipsham Studios. Hello, Jonny.
Hey there. Hi, guys. How are we doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for your time to accepting my request to actually talk about Jonny Lipsham Studios. We're going to talk about a lot of things. I have lots of questions for you about your studio, about your YouTube channels. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Now, let's learn a little bit about you. Can you briefly talk about Jonny Lipsham, your background, your musical background, and how you've got here?
Well, as you can tell from my accent, I'm Scottish. I'm from Edinburgh in Scotland in the UK, but I grew up on the road. My parents are musicians and entertainers. My mother is a singer, dancer, and comedian, and my dad is a guitar player. And so we grew up on the roads as a kind of family band kind of thing. And so I've lived in just about every major city in the UK. So growing up on the road meant that I've lived in just about every major city in the UK. So my accent, although fundamentally Scottish, is somewhat messed up. so I started playing drums initially. That was my first kind of exploration into music. And I was about maybe 2 years old when I started playing drums. And then by the time I was 5, I was playing gigs with my mum and dad. So, I was only like a little tiny kid standing up at a set of drums and playing, songs by some of the great R&B and soul artists of the time. The late 70s, early 80s. That was kind of how I kind of grew up. Yeah, and I just started picking up different instruments as I went along. So, by the time I was like 12, I started playing. No, when I was 9, I started playing piano.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, I got into playing bass. And I figured that the more instruments I play, the less likely I'm going to be out of work. That was my theory anyway. Mm-hmm. So, and then I kind of fell into music production. I guess you could kind of say by accident. It was more that when I was at school, we had this music teacher that everybody hated, and she was awful. she was just a horrendous music teacher. Yes, and got me to the point where I was just like, I just really don't want to go into music. I really don't. If it's going to be like this, I don't have anything to do with it. I'll go and play, county cricket, which is something I was passionate about anyway. I'll just pursue that instead. But then our music teacher left under quite a considerable cloud and was replaced by a new teacher. And this new teacher, he brought with him recording gear, a passion for jazz music, which is something I shared. And so he brought in this Atari ST computer. You remember those?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so he brought in one of those. And I think we had, what was it we had on it? Steinberg's Pro 24, if you can remember that from...
Steinberg, did you say?
I did say that dreaded word, yes.
Yeah.
Through gritted deep Steinberg.
Yes.
So that got me into recording, and I was hooked from that moment. Recording. So I did all my school work, my school music work on this computer, and pretty much nobody else could get on it because I was just on it all the time. And so because of that meant when everyone else wanted to do their work, I would mix their work for them.
Mm-hmm.
When
you say work, were you doing composition arrangements back then, or?
Yeah. So like we had composition assignments to do, and so when that happened, I would basically say to the other kids, "Look, I'll mix your work for you. I'll make it sound pretty." That's what I said. I'd make it sound pretty, and that'd get you, better marks. So I fell into that kind of by accident, and then I kind of realized I actually really like this. maybe, just maybe, I could pursue this as some kind of career.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked my music teacher, and he said, "Yeah, you can pursue it as a career." One of the things we had to do at school was, I don't know whether you did it where you're from, but we did something called work experience, where you go
Yes,
and
yeah.
a 2-week placement.
Yes.
So my teacher got me a 2-week placement in a studio.
Mm-hmm.
In a relatively large recording studio. So I went and worked there for 2 weeks, and they had this gorgeous SSL 4000 series console.
Uh-huh.
And so I started talking to the engineers and asking all the questions and bothering them. And I'd go and look at the tape machines. They had a Studer tape machine. I'd go and look at that and find out how it works and how to maintain it and all of that. And I ended up staying there after my work experience.
Wow. Wow.
And, you know, I played drums on quite a few records that were recorded there, and just kind of got into using the SSL at that time. So before I knew it, I was kind of like an assistant engineer without really trying.
Wow, that's a really great story.
Yeah. And then flash forward to now, and I have my own little studio.
Yes.
And it's all down to that music teacher.
Right. And you are a music teacher as well at the moment?
I have been a music teacher. I did 2 years of music teaching, but kind of what I do now, it's still kind of teaching music, but it's more, I do it via Skype, and I do it via my YouTube videos. So,
Yep. So what sort of, just tell us very briefly about Jonny Lipsham Studios and what sort of services does that provide?
I started the studio in 1999, I think it was. Yeah, it would have been 1999, with not very much gear, to be honest. I had a cheap little desktop that I bought from the UK equivalent to Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using a certain manufacturer's software, the aforementioned company.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm over it now. I'm happy. Yes, because remember just before our conversation and interview, your what you call it, your luck just hopped over.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a bit later on.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was actually recommended by the store where I got the computer from to get Cubase.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, I had used Pro 24 in my younger days, and Cubase version 1 in my younger days, and they said, yeah, get the latest version of Cubase. So that's what I did. So I ran with that until 2013, and I switched to Studio One, and I've been a Studio One guy since then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my studio, I do mixing and mastering. I'm a session musician, so I play on other people's records without ever having to go to another studio. Most of the time I don't have to go to another studio.
That's a good thing these days, isn't it? Like the technology that we've got, that we can have our input to a musical production without even moving out of our bedrooms.
Yes.
As such.
Yeah, I mean, it is totally amazing because, you know, even just 10 years ago, to do session work, I'd have to go from studio to studio to studio. I'd do a lot of mileage, you know, and it'd be a lot of hours away from home, and sometimes, you know, I'd have to go to another city to go and work. But nowadays, I can do it all from in here. I can be working with a guy in Western Australia, which I'm doing at the moment. I'm working with another guy in Israel. I'm working with a guy in New York City, and I'm doing all of this from here in Edinburgh. It's mental. It's crazy. There are a couple of cases where I have to go to other studios to do stuff. Like I occasionally get asked to play on a film score, so that does mean going to a much larger studio where they can fit in a whole orchestra and stuff. Couldn't do that in here.
So if people want to contact you for session work as well as mixing and mastering, how would they actually contact you?
Best way to contact me is to go to my website, which is jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and there's a contact button at the top of this, just underneath the nice banner there, and you hit that.
I'll make sure that I'll leave a link in the description as well, so that they can link and come to you and get in contact with you if they've got lots of session work that they need someone like you to actually have an input on. That's really great. Okay, now, when did you start your YouTube channel? How long ago was it?
That, I think, was 2014. So, yeah, about 6 years, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I've known your channel probably about four years or so that I've been following you, watching your YouTube videos because of Studio One. Which was my interest back then as well, and I just want to see what other people were doing and working with Studio One. What sort of content do you have on your channel? Before I actually do that, answer that, I should actually congratulate you on your 2,000 subscriber, which is a great milestone. I know how I felt when my channel reached 2,000. I was hysterically excited. What about you?
Oh yeah, I was totally ecstatic because to get to the 1,000 subscriber mark took me 4 years. 4 years of just kind of like slavishly promoting it and trying to get my videos everywhere that I could think of. I think it was just like one video series that I did on Studio One 3.5 when that launched. It just suddenly took off. I can't put my finger on why, but there was just a lot of interest in version 3.5 when that came out.
Yeah,
and lots just started jumping on my videos, and they've had multiple thousands of views, and then just like I started getting 50, 60, 70 subscribers per month. It was just like quite crazy. And then of course Studio One 4.0 came out earlier last year. And again, that kind of gave me another little bump of subscribers and views. And so, kind of like before then, it was just like...
Is it really worth it, all these hours spent making the video, editing, cutting, all that, and only 2 people watch it? Really? Yeah, I do understand because everybody goes through that.
It was a real slog to start with. But as you say, once you get a little bit of traction, then you get more traction.
Yeah.
It's quite unusual how it works in YouTube land. But, a few people start to know about you, so they subscribe to your channel, and then your views bump up because people are subscribed. And then you go up the YouTube watch list. And that means that you appear on the YouTube homepage a bit more often, and then people jump on that. And I think they designed the algorithm so that people's channels can grow exponentially like that if a particular thing becomes popular.
Yeah, to get 1 million subscribers, all you got to do is some silly acts or something, and then you've got 1 million subscribers. So, but again, that's a minute fame. To my thing, it's just a minute fame, where what you and I are providing and many YouTube channels like us are providing is information which is still valid 4 or 5 years later. Same with my videos that I've uploaded 5 or 6 years ago. I still get comments on it. I still get questions about it because it's still relevant. And that's our growth is solid and steady, rather than being this spike of subscribers and then no one else is watching it because the fun of being silly is gone.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, the reason why I started my channel was because I have a real passion, always have had since I was a kid, really, a passion to teach people. Being a classroom teacher for 2 years, I found incredibly useful. First, it taught me how to teach a lot of people at once, And secondly, it taught me that the classroom for me is probably not the best place for me. I found being in the classroom challenging. So quite, you know, even though the results that I got from my students were some of the best results for music that the school I was teaching in have ever had. And I was just like a brand new teacher, only been qualified a year, and there I was getting the best exam results that they'd ever had for music. I had to walk away from it because I just found it too hard.
Yeah.
But the thing with YouTube is that I can do exactly the same thing. I can provide a music curriculum, a music production curriculum, which is what I'm trying to do, is to build a library where I cover as many facets of music production as I can possibly think of, so that, you know, people have a library, a resource that they can go to. You know, if they're a beginner, they've got beginner series there. They can get themselves into. Intermediates, they've got some videos there as well. Advanced people, there's some stuff for them as well. So I just basically want to create the best resource that I possibly can for music production in general, but also for Studio One, because I think it's the best DAW on the market. It's the easiest DAW on the market.
Yes.
And
I totally concur.
It's such a broad piece of software. It's the only software that I know that has a fully integrated mastering suite built into it.
Yes.
That, you know, you can be in mastering, and instead of having to phone or email the producer and say, look, you need to go revisit the mix because these guitars are too harsh. You know, if I've done the mix in Studio One,
click,
and I can just go back and just with one click of the mouse, I can go back and I can adjust those guitars so they're not quite so harsh, update the mastering file, and all is good. And it just takes me a minute or two.
Yes.
Why is there no other DAW on the market that is even vaguely competing with it? They're not.
No. I mean, their other DAWs, their work around it is saying that export it into, mix down into a WAV file, import it into a new project and work on it that way, and back and forward. You go, really? Yeah. So on your channel, what sort of, apart from Studio One, do you cover any other topics? And how many videos you've got till now anyway?
Oh gosh, I think I'm well past 200. Mostly because YouTube includes my live streams, my weekly live streams, so they count towards my video count. So,
all right,
if you include those, I'm well past 200 videos. But I've got some series there on songwriting, and I've got a couple that are kind of music theory like, in that they cover key change, how you can change from one key to another, fairly straightforwardly, because that's a big bugbear for a lot of young songwriters, a lot of young musicians that are new to writing their own songs. They go, hey, I want to be able to change key from my last chorus. How do I do that? And make that sound effective rather than just a leap from one key to another, which can work. I mean, classic composers like Handel would just stop and start again in the new key. That's what he did, and that was kind of like his signature way of doing it. So that works, but you know, it doesn't always work. It's not always effective. So I did a little two-part series on that. So the first part covers changing from major key to major key, and then the other one deals with going from major to minor or from minor to minor, because it's a little bit more involved than just major key. Major key is very easy.
Yeah. And as to your live streaming, you do weekly. Which days do you do? I know I try to attend quite a few of them, but sometimes due to hours, where I'm in Sydney, Australia, you're in UK, so there's a lot of hours difference. So sometimes I'm at work.
11 years. 11 hours ahead of me.
Yeah.
So
don't you worry. Australia is 11 years behind. Don't worry. And I have talked about this in other videos as well, about how technology in Australia is always behind NAM 2019 just happened in LA or Anaheim, and you know, everything that we saw there, it will be another 12 months before we see it in the shops here. Very few products which they think is really popular and they will kick off really well. They might bring them in a couple of months' time, but other than that, forget it.
Yeah. I remember when the Studio Live Series 3 consoles launched. What was that? 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And I remember a lot of Australian folks saying, "Hey, we're not going to get these for another 6 months."
That's right.
Before they're even coming into the dealers, before they go out to retail. You know, it's going to be what, 9 months before they're actually in the shops.
Yeah, I knew people who actually paid prepaid for their Studio Live Series 3 and still waited another 3-4 months before they could actually see it. They keep postponing the date. But yeah, what can we do? Going back into your YouTube channel, what sort of videos are planned? What sort of direction you planning to take?
I used to quite meticulously just draw up a list. At the start of the year, I'd draw up a list of stuff that I thought people would get into. I found out the hard way that what I think people are going to get into isn't necessarily what people are going to get into.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I've got nearly 2,000 subscribers now, and in fact, I now have 2,000 subscribers. Wouldn't it be a better approach to say, hey, folks, what's bothering you? What is it that you want to learn? What questions do you have? What videos would you like to see me make on a particular subject? So that's kind of what the approach I'm now starting to take, is asking people, hey, what is there a particular thing that you'd like me to feature? You know, do you want me to dive more in depth in EQ or compression, or ambient effects? How you get ambient effects to be effective and clear without being muddy, that kind of thing. So that's the approach I take now, is just asking people kind of what, and I get emails, and that helps me now. So I now draw up a list based upon the emails that I get, as to
the questions that you get. It is funny. I mean, it happens to me as well. I'm approaching nearly 500 videos now. That's not including the live streams that I do once a month or so. And I do a video and it becomes popular. There'd be 1,000 views within 24 hours on that topic. I go, okay, well, that's probably what people are interested in. So I do another video, either follow up or in the same ballpark about the same DAW or the same plugin or the same thing. And next thing you know, only 50 people watch it. I go, what happened?
Exactly.
What? And then I get a completely odd, unrelated video of the previous one. And next thing you know, it's got another 2,000 views in 24 hours. And you go, what? So, yeah, I can totally understand how you feel.
It can be quite frustrating to be a content creator on YouTube, because your audience can be very, very, I'm not going to say fickle, because that'd be insulting to our audience, but they certainly,
I believe it depends on the majority of your subscribers or the audience viewing is what they're doing, what project they're working on at the moment. They go, I want my vocal to sound good. So what do I need? How do I do it? Oh, maybe Vache can answer it. Maybe Jonny can answer it. So and they go to the page on our YouTube channel and try to find, they browse a couple sort of maybe pages, and then you go, there's too many videos. I'll just ask the question, rather than searching further into the 200 or 500 videos to find the perfectly answered video. So that's what I think the situation is, because everybody's trying to build their knowledge. They just want to answer it quickly, and if you happen to have a video that they are after at the right time, then you've got the views. That's what I think, anyway.
I think you're quite right. Going back to my live stream, I do that at 6 p.m. Central Time.
Oh, yes. We nearly forgot that, didn't we? I apologize.
We nearly didn't answer the question. We kind of went, there's a question, let's go over here. And so
I do apologize.
That's all right.
I do get excited sometimes.
That's all right. It's kind of my fault as well. I just kind of went, okay, let's just go with that.
We talked about 11 hours and 11 years, and then we went tangent into Australia being 11 years behind. Anyway, yes, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Central Time for those of you guys that are in the United States. If you're in the UK, it's midnight. If you're in Central Europe, it's 1 a.m. And if you're over in Sydney, Australia, it's going to be, what, 11 o'clock in the morning?
11 o'clock, yeah, in the morning.
The following morning, yes.
The following morning, yes.
You are living
we are ahead in that time, but everything else we're behind.
You are living in my tomorrow.
Yes. One question I wanted to ask, and I did not talk about this earlier because I wanted to ask you this, about your song releases. You have quite a few song releases. Can you talk about some of them?
Yeah.
How many songs you've got released now?
Oh, gosh.
That is important because that defines your profile. That defines what you know and how much you can actually put into your own material.
I've made a lot of records over the years. So I've been professional in the business since 1996, 1997. So
yeah.
A long time. I've been making records since 1993.
Yeah, but I'm asking the question about where you have composed, arranged, recorded the whole song rather than other records.
Oh, sure, yeah. I am actually talking about my own records. I have records going back to the 1980s.
Okay.
Yeah, I have records going back to the 1980s. But of all of my my back catalogue, the ones that are actually in print that you can actually get hold of now, they're all up on nimbitmusic.com/Jonny Lipsham. I have
that's part of Jonnys, isn't it? Nimbit.
Yes, it's owned by Personas.
Yep.
And I have an EP which I did in 2016 called Belonging to Tomorrow, and I have a couple of singles up there as well. I have one of which is an instrumental piece called Spoken Softly, and then I did just last year I did a December 10th challenge.
Yep.
Where I plucked a date arbitrarily out of the air, December 10th, and I said, right, folks, the challenge is to write, record, mix, and master, and release a song on this particular date.
Yep.
And the idea was that we all release this song at the same time. So my song, Places and Faces, was, if I'm going to set a challenge, I have to do it as well. So I did. And that was kind of my piece for that.
Yeah, I was actually going through your website and just looking and listening to all the music productions that you have listed there I'm playing. And there was one that was called Australian Christmas.
Oh, Christmas in Australia, yeah.
Christmas in Australia. How did that come about?
Well, that's a cover that my dad did for one of his EPs.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm trying to remember who wrote that song, and the name escapes me just now. So my mum and dad.
That is a true Australian Christmas.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I played bass and drums on that, and I mixed it and mastered it for my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My mum and dad were in here and did the vocals and guitars. So yeah, that was great fun. That's great fun to do. It's hilarious, that song.
Okay, Jonny, I've got before we wrap it up, I've got one last question. Who's your favorite artist at the moment?
Wow.
I put you on the spot, didn't I? I like putting sometimes people on the spot, but who's your influential artist that you have at the moment? Or you draw all your inspiration of musical inspiration and do your work with? Anyone?
That's a huge question. It's hard to answer as well, but
come on. Go on. Go
It's
on,
funny.
hurry up. I know it does put people sometimes on the spot, because there's so many.
Yeah, well, there are. There's a lot of different ingredients that and influences that go into the melting pot that is my music. But you know, a lot of people when they listen to my music, they kind of think, a little bit of Stevie Wonder, a little bit of Sting, a little bit Steely Dan, you know, a little bit Weather Report maybe, and yeah, all of those artists that I have listened to all over the years. But if we're going to go back to what, you know, kind of formatively as a child got me into music making, it's got to be John Coltrane, the tenor sax player.
All right, yes. I do recall him being mentioned by you on your live stream several times.
Yes, yeah. When I was a kid, all my friends at school were listening to Adam and the Ants, or they were listening to Duran Duran or Spandau Ballet, or you know, those kind of bands that were big in the 80s, or U2 and all of that. And I was sat at home listening to John Coltrane, learning his improvisations note for note, so I could sing all of his solos and that kind of stuff. And that was, to me, was I didn't really realize it until later in life, but really it was a massive music education because it taught me improvisation. It taught me the relationship between melody and harmony, and scales and harmony, and you know, it taught me about form and structure, because you know, for all of the stuff that Coltrane did in his later period, where, you know, you think he's just trying to make the saxophone scream, and sometimes it kind of sounds like that's exactly what he's doing, but, you know, there's a journey that he took to get to that point. You realize that, you know, one of the things that Coltrane was phenomenal at was spontaneous composition. It wasn't just improvising, it was composing a melody in the moment. And he was a master at that. And that taught me a lot about form and structure and how you can tell a story with music. And so that kind of stimulated me to start thinking about my music as not just songs, but their stories. So, you know, they've got protagonists, they've got characters, they've got a scene, they've got a mood, they've got an ambience that I work out. All of that is a really important ingredient to my music. And those kind of ideas came from obsessively listening to John Coltrane.
Well, Jonny, thank you so much for your time. If you wanted to add anything else into this interview, please feel free to add.
If you guys are interested in contacting me, go visit my website, jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and my live streams are on my YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Central Time, which is 11 o'clock in the morning, Sydney time, midnight UK. I am crazy enough to be up at midnight. Serve you guys. That's what it's about.
Well, thank you so much, Jonny. Thank you for your time and giving me the opportunity to interview you and introduce you to my YouTube subscribers. Of course, we will keep in touch as we have always been in touch, but we just never had the chance to interview you. And I hope that if you like what you hear from Jonny's work, do check his channel out. And then he does have, as he mentioned, lots of videos. And also the live stream is, I think it's really great because you get your answer pretty much straight away. Within a few minutes, as soon as Jonny reads the question, you get your answer. And that is fantastic way of communicating and expanding your knowledge and just drilling down on Jonny's head inside that brain and then picking every information that he has accumulated for over the years. So Jonny, thank you once again.
You're very welcome, Bertrand. It's been great talking to you, and thank you for having me on your channel. Really appreciate it.
You're really welcome. Cheerio, guys.
Cheers.